Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle D'Souza Gill, and I am so delighted to be hosting Dinesh's podcast this week. It's really been so much fun. If you are a regular Dinesh D'Souza listener, you maybe have heard me on here before. I've always enjoyed guest hosting in the past. I am frequently busy being a mom to my daughter, Marigold. I also support my husband's race for U.S. Congress in North Texas, where we live. I'm also the author of two books, The Choice, The Abortion Divide in America, which you can get on Amazon, and Why God, an Intelligent Discussion on the Relevance of Faith. Well, we have a lot to talk about today, but before we get into that, I want to make sure that we can stay in touch. So the best way you can find out more about me, the best way we can stay in touch is on Facebook, Instagram, True Social, Rumble, X, all the places. I am Danielle D'Souza Gill. Beware if you follow me on Facebook. I do post many times a day, so I will blow up your newsfeed, but it is all good stuff and news information that you need ASAP. Well, that's where you can find my content, videos, everything. All right, well, we have a lot of content to get to today. Today, we're going to be talking about last night's debate. This debate was between Senator Ted Cruz, Republican, and Representative Colin Allred, Democrat, in a Senate debate. We are going to talk all about it. I don't know if you guys watched it last night, but Ted Cruz absolutely destroyed Colin Allred with facts. He was great. He brought up allredfacts.com, a website to check out to see all of the truth as far as Colin Allred's voting record. Of course, we know that Colin Allred speaks in platitudes, much like his boss, Kamala Harris, yet Ted Cruz always brings the truth. Ted Cruz is an incredible debater, so if you haven't gotten a chance to watch the debate, you can always rewatch it later, but we are going to dive into all of the highlights and details today about that debate. We will also speak with Matt Rinaldi, former chair of the Texas GOP, about the state of politics and Texas's southern border, how voters are changing there. We're going to talk about races in the Texas House and the Senate. We're also going to talk about Texas at large and the national races. We will then wrap up today's podcast by talking a bit about Joe Biden, who is still president. I know, who? We only talk about Kamala now, so we haven't checked in on Joe lately. We will dive into a little history, and I will go into a little bit of a comparison between Biden and LBJ. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
America needs this voice. The times are crazy. In a time of confusion, division, and lies, we need a brave voice of reason, understanding, and truth. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
From 509 to 322 BC, the government of Athens was a direct democracy. This meant Athenian citizens voted on issues themselves, without any intermediary. Voting happened on a regular basis, and public officials overseeing the elections were randomly chosen by lots, so corruption was kept to a minimum. While direct democracies have their fair share of difficulties, you cannot help but yearn for such a system when you notice how certain politicians in the U.S. seek to exploit the fact that we Americans permit representatives to cast our votes on the issues that matter most to us. Our government, unlike that of ancient Athens, is a representative democracy. So we choose politicians to vote for us, and depending on the federal office, elections happen every 2, 4, or 6 years. The long stretch of time between elections allows politicians to promise whatever the voters seem to want in the run-up to the election. However, once elected, some politicians break their promises and vote on the issues as they please. This tendency to promise voters the moon is especially pronounced in the Senate races because senators have 6 years in office before they must face the voters and run for re-election again. The most recent polls suggest Democrats will likely lose their majority in the Senate. So the temptation for candidates on the Democrat side to make promises they do not plan to keep will be at an all-time high this election cycle. Recent polling from the New York Times and Siena College shows Republicans leading in Montana, Texas, and Florida. Republicans have a 77% chance of taking the Senate, according to Polymarket betting odds. Although Democrats have a 51 to 49 majority in the Senate, Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia is retiring. The seat is expected to be won easily by Republican Jim Justice. Joe Manchin is one of a growing list of moderate Democrats who have left the party because the Democrats do not tolerate dissension. Today's Democrats must stay in lockstep or they are punished. Manchin, like Tulsi Gabbard and other prominent Democrats of late, has chosen to leave the Democratic Party and register as an independent because of the Democrats' refusal to permit debate and freedom of thought. Manchin still caucuses with the Democrats, though, so technically they still have their two-seat majority. The Republicans need to win just one more seat to take the Senate, and most agree they are poised to win Montana, where Republican Tom Sheehy is polling 7 points ahead of incumbent John Tester. In order for these likely wins in West Virginia and Montana to give control of the Senate to the Republicans, we need to hold the states we already have. And herein lies the hope of the Democrats. The Times reports that despite Democrats' depressing polling numbers, they are optimistic they will be able to claim some surprise victories. Quote, the best opportunity, according to New York Times Siena polling, may be in Texas, which Democrats have long dreamed of flipping, but where they have fallen well short in recent years, the article states. The Times Siena poll has Senator Ted Cruz leading the Democrat challenger, Representative Colin Allred, by 48 to 44%. Cruz is a staunch proponent of conservative causes, and he fights hard to stop government overreach. In an age where Republicans are often squeamish about giving their full-throated support to America First policies, Ted Cruz remains stalwart in his efforts to protect Americans against the tyranny of the left and against open borders. During one memorable speech against Obamacare, Cruz held the Senate floor for more than 21 hours. At one point in his lengthy speech, he even read Green Eggs and Ham to his children from the floor of the Senate, all in order to make clear his opposition to Obama's intrusive healthcare law. Throughout his career in the Senate, Ted Cruz has never shied away from standing up for conservative values, whether fiscal, moral, or legislative. As a result of his success advocating for conservatives, the left salivates at the thought of getting rid of Ted Cruz. In 2018, the Democrats ran Beto O'Rourke against Cruz, and O'Rourke raised $80 million, one of the highest amounts ever raised by a Senate campaign. In the end, Beto was able to narrow the gap between the two, and Cruz won by 2.6% of the vote. In his victory speech, Senator Cruz made note of the fact that the full force of the leftist elite had fought hard to beat him. Cruz said, quote, "We saw an assault that was unprecedented. We saw a $100 million race with Hollywood coming in against the state, with the national media coming in against the state, but all the money in the world was no match for the good people of Texas and their hard work." Since 1994, no Democrat has been elected to statewide office in Texas, but for the Democrats, their dream of turning Texas blue lives on. If Senator Cruz is leading in the polls, though, why are the Democrats so hopeful? 2 words: money and lies. In terms of money, according to each candidate's July quarterly report given to the Federal Election Commission, Ted Cruz has spent almost $17 million, while his challenger Colin Allred has spent almost $30 million. Allred has consistently outraised Cruz, who raised $9.5 million in his first 6 months of campaigning to Allred's $11.5 million. Though both candidates have received out-of-state contributions, Allred has received more as the nation's leftist centers of power set their sights on taking the Senate seat away from Cruz. Colin Allred is a native to the state of Texas, and he is currently the congressional representative for the 32nd Congressional District, which includes his hometown of Dallas. Allred beat Republican Pete Sessions to claim the seat. Like Cruz, who is the grandson of a Cuban immigrant who came to America with no money, Allred has an interesting story. He was raised by a single mother and went on to be a football player in the NFL. When he left football, he became a civil rights lawyer and then decided to represent the congressional district where he grew up. Both Cruz and Allred have lived the American dream, which Cruz pointed out during the debate last night. Cruz seeks to keep that dream a possibility for others, while Allred is a Democrat who wholeheartedly supports the policies of the Biden-Harris administration, policies that are destroying our country and making the American dream more and more difficult to achieve. However, you would never know that Allred is a fierce defender of all the left's most beloved causes. That's because he wants to be a senator in Texas, so he's willing to turn his back on his own voting record, at least until he's elected, and make it seem like he's a middle-of-the-road center person, because he knows he needs to appeal to Texans. And let's be honest, Texans are not overwhelmingly radically liberal. Unbelievably, Allred is campaigning by painting himself as a Republican. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't start passing out bumper stickers with the slogan, "Allred all the time," to indicate that he has always held the moderate common sense views he now espouses on the campaign trail. CNN reports that, quote, both candidates tout their bipartisanship, but Allred is leaning heavily into his support from high-profile Republicans such as former Representative Liz Cheney of Wyoming and former Rep. Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, who leads a group called Republicans for Allred. Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney? Wow, I can't believe that even passes as Republican support these days. Those two are basically talking heads for the left. Ted Cruz's response to CNN when they asked him to comment on this important Republican endorsement was priceless. Cruz told CNN, "I've known Liz Cheney a long time, and she's completely lost her mind." CNN seemed a little irritated with Allred when they asked him why he brings up Cheney and Kinzinger's endorsements more frequently than the support he receives from Biden and Harris. Allred did not really have much of an explanation for that, and therein lies the problem with his campaign. As a congressman, he has not shared the same values as Republicans or even Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger. And the views he expresses in his ads run counter to the votes he has cast as a congressional representative. The Cruz campaign has launched a site, allredfacts.com, that presents quotations from Allred's ads with links alongside pertinent information about Allred's voting record, also with supporting links. The depth of Allred's hypocrisy is breathtaking. For example, on the issue of letting men play in women's sports, in one of his ads, Allred says, "So let me be clear, I don't want boys playing in girls' sports." However, Allred voted against H.R. 734, the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. The passage of this act would have put a stop to males playing in school sports, programs meant for females. Allred also voted against H.R. 5, the Parental Bill of Rights, which would have made it mandatory for schools to notify parents about their gender policies. Additionally, schools would have been forced to obtain parental consent before permitting a student to change their gender, name, or ask for sex-based accommodations. If Allred doesn't want boys playing girls' sports, as he proclaims in his ads, then why did he block these important legislative items? When asked about these issues in his debate with Ted Cruz, Allred danced around the issue and never clearly stated why he has had a change of heart on this issue. Concerning the border crisis, Allred states in his ads that, quote, "Our border communities deserve a senator who will work to find bipartisan solutions to address the border crisis." However, he voted against the Secure the Border Act, against denouncing the Biden-Harris failed border policies, and against the Police Act, which mandates automatic deportation for any illegal immigrant who assaults a police officer. Allred voted against Texas Representative Chip Roy's SAVE Act, which would have required all 50 states to check voters' identification. If Allred is committed to finding bipartisan solutions to addressing the border crisis, why didn't he work with Chip Roy, his fellow Texan in Congress? On energy, abortion, Israel, crime, and spending, Colin Allred has expressed Republican views in his campaign ads, all the while his bright blue voting record stands in opposition to these statements. Colin Allred is not only a leftist Democrat, he is also a liar. Let's hope and pray that we Texans reject Allred's cynical attempt to fool us into voting for him as he swans about the state pretending to be a Republican. If by chance he were to become our senator, the odds are good he will go right back to supporting the left's radical agenda as soon as he is elected, which was likely his plan all along.
Mike Lindell is such a good guy. He's got a heart of gold, and Mike and MyPillow love giving back to those in need. They sent a truckload of 14,000 MyPillows to those impacted by Hurricane Helene. But even though Mike loves to give back, a large retail store just canceled a huge order that had already left the warehouse. So besides giving to those in need, Mike wants to pass some savings directly on to you. For the first time ever, you can get a standard classic MyPillow for wholesale prices, just $14.88. It gets better. For a limited time, they're offering their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. So get a queen-size MyPillows, $18.88. Upgrade to a king for only $1 more. Get the body pillows for just $29.88, and multi-use MyPillows for $9.88. Go to mypillow.com, use promo code Dinesh, or you can call 800-876-0227. Again, it's 800-876-0227 to take advantage of the wholesale pricing for the first time ever. On top of that, get free shipping on orders over $75. The deals haven't been offered this low before. So once again, go to mypillow.com, use promo code Dinesh, get the standard MyPillow, $14.88, the lowest price ever. By the way, limited quantities at this price, so once they're gone, they're gone. I want you to order Balance of Nature fruits and veggies in a capsule, but before you do that, wait till you hear what I have to say. If you go to balanceofnature.com, you'll check out these. This is their popular fruit and veggie supplements, fruit and veggies in a capsule. But you might see a discount offer pop up. It may say 20% or 25% off your first order. Well, don't click that. Why? Because if you use my promo code, you'll get 35% off your first order plus free shipping. The special code is simply the word America. Use the code and save big. Here's another bonus. Balance of Nature has a risk-free money-back guarantee. So go ahead and find out for yourself what I already know. There's no other product out there like Balance of Nature when it comes to fruit and veggie supplements. Whether you order online or call direct, you got to use promo code America to get the special offer, 35% off and free shipping. Here's the number to call, 800-246-8751. Again, 800-246-8751, or go to balanceofnature.com. When you use discount code America, you get 35% off and free shipping. Grand Canyon University, a private Christian university in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, believes that we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. GCU believes in equal opportunity, and the American dream starts with purpose. GCU equips you to serve others in ways that promote human flourishing and create a ripple effect of transformation for generations to come. By honoring your career calling, you impact your family, your friends, and your community. Change the world for good by putting others before yourself to glorify God. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's online, on-campus, and hybrid learning environments are designed to help you achieve your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. With 350 academic programs as of June 2024, GCU meets you where you are and provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Let it flourish. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu.
I am delighted to welcome to the podcast Matt Rinaldi. He is the former Texas GOP chair. Matt, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Well, before this, I was admiring your painting, which is very Texan, so I like it. But Matt, I want to get your thoughts in these last few weeks leading up to the election. How do you feel about things in Texas as far as whether they're going to be going red, going blue? I know the Democrats, they always had this dream of flipping Texas blue. And of course, they've been pouring millions of dollars into the Senate race, Allred versus Cruz. So how do you feel like things are looking so far?
I think they're looking great. And Democrats always have that dream of turning Texas since I think it was 2002 with the dream team of Ron Kirk and Tony Sanchez that were going to win statewide. Then we saw Wendy Davis and Beto O'Rourke, and none of that ever panned out. And I don't think it's going to pan out this time either. We had the best election in Texas in 2022 that we've had since 2014. It was the first time since 2014 Texas became more red, and we outperformed polls significantly and won every statewide office by double digits. In fact, we've won every statewide office in Texas since 1994, and I don't think that's going to change this time.
Wow, that is amazing. I feel like so many people too are seeing how horrible the Biden-Harris administration is, and people in Texas see what's going on at the border, they see the economy, and they just think, I can't really live through another 4 years of this, even if they're an independent, because they just think it's just impossible to get by on this. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the Ted Cruz debate last night. How did you think that debate went?
I thought it went well. I mean, I think every Ted Cruz debate goes well, probably since he's been in high school. So, and I think last night was no exception. I think he successfully painted Colin Allred as the extremist he is. Colin tries to put a smile on his face and talk about issues as little as possible. But in reality, he's an extreme Democrat who agrees with every single one of the Biden-Harris administration's policies, and which has been a specific focus for the Texas GOP and the Cruz campaign in this race, men and women's sports. And Colin Allred has tried to play semantics by saying, I don't support boys and women's sports. Yeah, you also consider girls pretending to be boys, and boys pretending to be girls. So we've seen from his voting record that he absolutely supports that, which is an extreme position that most Hispanic voters in Texas and voters in general don't agree with.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that that issue has become so front and center, because it was probably not what they exactly expected, with immigration, economy, other issues being very important to people. But he is a very radical Democrat. They didn't really choose someone to run who is centrist in any way, even though he's trying to paint himself as a centrist. And a lot of his messaging is acting like he's, the better alternative to Cruz, or he's sort of Republican, and he touts a lot of his endorsements from Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger. Do you think that any of that is helpful to him? Do you think he's reaching anyone with those things?
No, I think the Cheneys are probably the most hated family in politics. And I think Dick Cheney had a 23% approval rating when he left office in 2008. So I can't imagine being happy with Lynn Cheney's endorsement, who just lost by 35 points in a primary. No, I think there aren't any Democrats left in the party that aren't extremist. They kicked all the moderates out. We saw that with Eric Johnson, who was mayor of Dallas. We saw that with Sean Theory, who is a pro-abortion, anti-gun Democrat who the only issue that she didn't fall in line in was transing the kids. And they kicked her out of the party for it, and she became a Republican. So if Colin Allred was a moderate, he wouldn't be the Democrat nominee, right? There are no moderate Democrats left.
That is so true. Yes, I think maybe Joe Manchin was the last one, and he's an independent now. So he's done with the Democrat Party. Yeah. But you're right. And it seems like this trans issue is so important to them, if they're willing to give up a lot of their people over the trans issue. Yet I think they know that in Texas, they can't really win on the trans issue, because most people in Texas aren't for boys and girls sports, for example. So it's interesting that those ads have taken such a center, because I think Allred is just basically lying, saying, oh no, I am against that. But in reality, whenever he's asked about that during the debate last night, he would just shift the topic to abortion or something else, when it's like, you're not actually answering the question about this issue of gender. So I think they're stuck.
he can't drill down on it, because he'll lose his base, right? If he actually says what he means, he'll lose his base. So the only thing he can do is use that vague semantics approach of putting up an ad. But I think Ted Cruz was really good at immediately responding to the ad Colin Allred put up, repeating his words in the ad, and highlighting his votes and showing he was lying. Yeah. So I think it was good where he came right back against him on that issue. And I think that issue is very important in Texas, because a lot of the GOP gains you're seeing are from South Texas. And what I always tell people is, they're like, why do you see such a shift? And why would that be such a focus? It's like, go to McAllen, Texas, pick any random house out, knock on the door and ask them what their pronouns are. And they will look at you like you're an idiot. And that's what you're seeing right now in South Texas. You're seeing a bunch of working class families that are being hurt by inflation and crime and the border. And they're wondering why Democrats are trying to push this crazy religion on them.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is crazy because it's beyond anything we could have imagined. Tell us a little bit about the Texas State House. How are races going there? How do you kind of foresee that looking in the future? I know everyone followed closely the Dade Phelan race. Of course, was sad to see that he's made it through almost. But what do you expect as far as a speaker? Do you foresee him trying to be speaker from all the Democrats or something? How do you foresee that playing out?
I don't foresee Dade Phelan being speaker, and I don't think a majority of the House foresees him being speaker. I don't even think the Democrats think they can make him speaker again. He just doesn't have the support. I think he was hurt too much. He put his he was hurt too much by putting his members in bad positions to take bad votes that hurt them in the primary. I mean, you saw about 1/3 of Republicans who were in the House last session are no longer there, most of them being replaced with more conservative members. So he just doesn't, I don't think he can pull it off. He doesn't have the support. I think we are not going to see Democrat chairs in the House next session. I don't think anybody can get the support without having all Republican chairs, which is a good thing. As far as the House races go, I think Republicans pick up a couple seats. I think you'll see Don McLaughlin over in Uvalde take the Tracy King seat. Tracy King being another moderate Democrat who was effectively ousted from the party. He retired, but had no more place in the modern Democrat Party. He's going to be replaced with a Republican. That's a pro-Trump district. And I think you will see the Senate gain a member in Adam Hinojosa, who lost a close race by a few hundred votes against Morgan LaMantia in the Senate. I think he's going to win that this time. So you're going to see most of our gains come, I think, in those South Texas areas.
Okay. Wow. Well, that's exciting. Do you think that when you look at kind of future, do you think the new speaker, whoever that might be, is going to be working more with the Republican side? Or do you think there could be a repeat situation where it's like they, for some reason, feel like in order to get all the votes they need, they try to get Democrats to play ball?
I think David Cook has to be the favorite right now to win speaker. I think if David becomes speaker, he has promised a package of reforms that will give Republicans the power in the House. I think the package of reforms that he's proposed will empower Republicans and will not make it politically advantageous to bring Democrats into their coalition to the extent that they have in the past. I mean, I think where there are issues that truly Republicans and Democrats agree, they're going to come together and pass bills on those issues. But where it comes to partisan issues that truly define, the Republican versus Democrat divide, like crime, like immigration, like the economy, you're going to see Republicans, I think, stick more to the Republican Party platform going forward. Okay,
that's very encouraging because Texas is a red state. So the fact that we had to put up with Dade Phelan was crazy. But okay, well, that's exciting moving forward. And so you mentioned South Texas and how we're going to have some gains in South Texas. I've also seen that I think they're growing, they're becoming a bit more pro-Trump. They're becoming more just Republican in general. And so those are really exciting areas. And I think overall Trump is getting more of the Hispanic vote than traditionally Republicans have had in the past since even 2020 or 2016. Do you think that there's better messaging reaching them, or do you think that a lot of them are just kind of realizing like, oh, the Democrats are not the party we thought that they were? I know, Trump himself is very exciting too. So what do you think it is that's kind of causing that shift?
I think you're seeing a political realignment that has carried over since 2016. And I think you're gradually seeing the tail end of that, where working class and middle class families are moving to the Republican Party regardless of race and identity politics. because they see that Republicans are the ones standing up for them, their jobs. They're protecting them from crime, from immigration, and they're going to make their everyday lives a little better. Plus, I think most of those people like the America they grew up in and don't want it to turn into something different. They see the Democrat Party as trying to fundamentally change America. They've said they wanted to. So I think you're seeing that transformation happen, where the Democrats become the party of large corporations and government, and the Republicans become the working class, middle class party. And you're seeing that play out in South Texas right now.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's very exciting, Matt. And thank you so much for your analysis. I appreciate it. And
Sure.
I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
FDNY firefighter Daniel Foley assisted in rescue and recovery efforts at Ground Zero, but Daniel couldn't have known then that his heroism would cost him his life. More than 18 years later, his death, like so many others, resulted from 9/11 related illnesses caused by the toxic dust that formed when the Twin Towers collapsed. Victims and first responders are still suffering and dying from 9/11, yet children in this nation are growing up unaware of America's darkest day. That's why the Tunnel to Towers 9/11 Institute is helping educators teach children about 9/11. Tunnel to Towers 9/11 curriculum units have scripted lessons, background for teachers, and activities for students. They're based on first-person accounts and designed to meet academic standards. The 9/11 Institute offers the Discovering Heroes book series, a speakers bureau, a mobile exhibit with 9/11 artifacts, and memorial scholarships for the children of the Foundation's program recipients. Help our nation keep its promise to never forget. How can you help? Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org. Are you feeling overwhelmed by the increasing cost of health insurance? Have you had enough of not having control over your healthcare dollars? Introducing Share Right. It's healthcare done the right way. At Share Right, you're not just a number, you're part of a caring community. Forget about paying excessive premiums. With Share Right, you stand to save 30 to 50% compared to health insurance. So think about what you could do with all those savings. But it's more than just savings. Share Right ensures you have access to the care you deserve precisely when you need it, from routine checkups to unexpected emergencies. With Share Right, your healthcare is their top priority. Empower yourself today by taking control of your healthcare costs. Visit shareright.org/Dinesh to learn more. See how much you can save. Visit shareright.org/Dinesh. That's shareright.org/Dinesh for healthcare done the right way.
Remember how Joe Biden is still president of the United States? Yes, I realize we have not talked about him recently because he's basically become a lame duck president. He's become irrelevant since Kamala Harris has ousted him through her coup to run for president instead of him. So we're going to do a quick check-in on Joe Biden, see how things are going there. Well, since he gave a speech at the Democratic National Committee or convention, comparisons between the Democrat Party in 1968 and the party in 2024 have increased. There are superficial similarities. Both the convention in 68 and that of 2024 were held in Chicago. The Democrats in both 68 and 2024 are dealing with a third-party candidate, or at least they were, RFK, who left the Democratic Party to run as an independent, and we've now seen that he has endorsed President Trump. In 1968, it was George Wallace, the leader of the Southern Democrats, who ran on an anti-desegregation platform. In 2024, Robert Kennedy Jr. ran largely as the AIP candidate. Kennedy is opposed to Biden's policy of prolonging the war in Ukraine. He has criticized the chaos caused by Biden's mulish insistence that Americans must accept unchecked illegal immigration, no matter how damaging it is to our communities. Our southern border, according to Kennedy, is, quote, a dystopian nightmare created by the open border policies of the federal government. Like Biden, President Lyndon B. Johnson gave a speech on television to explain why he was not seeking re-election. There is division in the American House now. President Lyndon B. Johnson lamented on March 31st, 1968, as he shocked the nation by refusing the Democratic nomination. Americans at the time were sharply divided by their attitudes toward the Vietnam War, and there was widespread dissatisfaction over LBJ's failure to be forthcoming about January's Tet Offensive. In the winter of 1968, LBJ had assured the nation that American forces were close to winning the war, but the North Vietnamese surprise attacks during Tet, or the Vietnamese New Year celebration, revealed that the war was not almost over, and the United States was not just around the corner from achieving victory. Although the Tet Offensive was a military defeat for the Communists, as they failed to keep the territory they captured and casualties were high, the attack revealed the true extent of America's involvement and revealed the horror of war as gruesome images of death and destruction were broadcast nightly. People across the country felt betrayed by a government that had misled them. Historian Arthur Schlesinger famously offered the Democrats a more charitable description of their war effort. He likened Kennedy's decision to go to war in Vietnam to that of a man who haplessly steps into a boggy quagmire. In his 1967 book, The Bitter Harvest, Schlesinger wrote, quote, "The first step into a quagmire inexorably draws one down a slippery slope. A quagmire is force of nature, something we humans cannot control and must struggle to escape through no fault of our own." Schlesinger argued that the Kennedy and Johnson administrations, quote, "stumbled blindly into war with Vietnam without realizing what they were really getting into." In recognition of the growing lack of support for the war, during his 40-minute speech, Johnson also announced that he was curtailing the bombing of the North Vietnamese and pivoting to a scaled-back war policy in terms of both money and manpower. Johnson made good on his promise, and the Tet Offensive marked the beginning of the end for America's involvement in the war. Well, Joe Biden addressed the nation for just 11 minutes during the DNC in order to, like LBJ, explain his decision to leave the presidential race. Rather than acknowledging America's current dissatisfaction, as LBJ did in both word and deed, the Biden administration made no such concessions, despite Americans' discontent with immigration, inflation, rising crime, the war in Ukraine, Democrats' polarizing rhetoric, the gaslighting. Unlike LBJ, the Biden administration has offered no concessions. Biden himself, I don't even think likes Harris very much. If you think about it, Joe Biden was really forcibly pushed out, and he would like nothing more than to see Kamala Harris fail. Yes, he claims he's endorsed her, he claims he supports her, but in his mind, he, as his campaign has said in the past, he's the only one who's beaten Donald Trump, and he really thought that he would have the best chance again. Now, Kamala Harris has been really the center of his administration now, running for president. And so Biden is left in a spot where he doesn't really know how to define himself. I think right now he's focusing on his legacy. He's focusing on trying to portray himself as someone who had successes during his administration. He's trying to leave on a high note. However, even he, I think, is full of bitterness that this is how it ended. We've seen very little communication between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in terms of their campaigns. We've not seen the White House communicating with her campaign in the sense that she was taking shots at Ron DeSantis in Florida, saying he was handling the crisis horribly. Meanwhile, at the same time, Joe Biden was saying that Ron DeSantis was handling it beautifully, that he was doing a great job, and they were in close communication about the hurricane there. So very little communication. We also saw that Joe Biden would give remarks. He would go on television. He would say, a speech, while Kamala Harris also had another event going on in another part of the country, and she wanted the media attention, but instead the media was covering Joe Biden instead. So we have not seen them in close communication. We've also seen that their teams are different. A lot of Biden's team has remained loyal to him. And Kamala Harris, we also have seen reports about her as a boss, how she's had people leave, and she's not the easiest person to work for. So with these last couple weeks only left until the election, what do we make of the Biden-Harris situation? Well, despite having hidden Joe Biden's deteriorating health. No information about his ailing health was even provided as far as why he stepped down. We also don't even have any updates now as far as how he's doing, even though he is still currently president and is running the country, so he claims. Though Joe Biden did not follow the example of LBJ by offering conciliatory comments to the American public, he did acknowledge the nation's divided state. He also embraced the notion that once again, Democrats have unwittingly wandered into a quagmire. Biden has been talking about unity and perfection. He's been talking about being president as a sacred task that consists of perfecting our union, but a job that is, Biden confided, not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. We can never forget that. Where in the founding documents does it say that the president's job is to perfect us? By perfect, Biden means reject those who disagree with him. He urges voters to save our union by purging dissenters, by making the election a virtue test. He said, quote, "I've made it clear that I believe America is at an inflection point. One of those rare moments in history when the decisions we make now will determine our fate of our nation and the world for decades to come. America is going to have to choose between moving forward or backward, between hope and hate, between unity and division." Wow, that actually sounds like Kamala Harris, honestly, with the forward and backward, one of Kamala Harris's favorite directions. Biden's words implied that it is not our freedom to choose that must be protected, but our choice of the Democrat Party. This is really the only thing that's crucial to preserving our union. In order to be united, we must crush the opposition and be Democrats. We need to stop anyone who disagrees with our project of perfecting the citizenry. If we just get rid of all the people who disagree with us, we will be united, right? Remember, this was how Joe Biden started off his presidency, with the whole unity thing. He was big on that, of course, while he was also persecuting January 6thers. We must therefore choose Democrats if we are to be a people of unity. If we do not choose his party in the coming election, Biden warns us, we will be the people of division. So to unite, we have to divide. Biden rejects the ideas put forward at the Republican National Convention, where J.D. Vance said that, quote, "Our disagreements actually make us stronger." Vance talked about how in the Senate, our American system is alive and well, where sometimes he persuades his colleagues and sometimes they persuade him. In his acceptance speech, Vance asked the nation to embrace the American experiment. He said, quote, "My message to my fellow Americans, those watching from across the country, is shouldn't we be governed by a party that is unafraid to debate ideas and come to the best solution? That ability to disagree and debate in order to find the best path forward, in order to search for the truth, is the hallmark of American political life. Not so for Joe Biden. In his speech, he first states that, quote, "We have to decide if we still believe in honesty, decency, and respect, freedom, justice, and democracy. We do this by seeing those we disagree with as friends, fellow Americans. How we make our fellow Americans our friends, though, is not by trying to persuade them," according to Joe Biden. In his speech, Biden told us, "Those of us who cherish that cause, cherish it so much, the cause of American democracy itself, must unite to protect it." He continued, "It's become clear to me that I needed to unite my party in this critical endeavor." Wow. Well, he's certainly uniting the nation. As we've seen over the last 4 years, more people have only united against him and against the Democrats and realizing how crazy they are. He is uniting the nation, which is sharply divided along party lines. But in many cases, he has really only united the Democrat Party. A lot of the Democrats have realized that Joe Biden's mental state is in decline, and they came together, supported Kamala Harris because she was basically anointed and chosen for the role. So it's true, the Democrats do find a way to unite, and in many ways, they cast out people who don't agree with them. If you're a moderate Democrat or you're someone who maybe just believes in the party system or the primaries, no, you're a Democrat who must be silenced. Biden states that by passing the torch to a new generation of Democrats, he is offering the best way to unite our nation. Wow. Well, he concludes his call for national unity by encouraging the Democrats to act together to preserve our democracy, one of their favorite words. How is democracy preserved when the leaders refuse to acknowledge the dissatisfaction of the voters? How is democracy preserved when Kamala Harris didn't actually win through a primary process? Biden's view of unity is nonsensical. Perhaps the point is not to persuade through logic, but to impose through power. Telling people to unite by becoming more divisive is a kind of doublethink because it insists that we concede as truth that which our reason tells us cannot be true. Winston Smith, the protagonist of the dystopian novel 1984, explains that doublethink is the act of simultaneously accepting two contradictory beliefs as correct. It is a sign of obedience and an acknowledgement of powerlessness to abandon reason and believe that which the law of non-contradiction tells us cannot be true. In the novel, Winston Smith explains that doublethink is, quote, to know and not to know, to be conscious of complete truthfulness while telling carefully constructed lies, to hold simultaneously two opinions which canceled out, knowing them to be contradictory, and believing in both of them, to use logic against logic, to repudiate morality while laying claim to it, to believe that democracy was impossible and that the party was the guardian of democracy, to forget whatever it was necessary to forget, then to draw it back into memory again, at the moment when it was needed, and then promptly to forget it again, and above all, to apply the same process to the process itself. That was the ultimate subtlety. Consciously to induce unconsciousness, and then once again to become unconscious of the fact of hypnosis you've just performed on yourself. Even to understand the word doublethink involves the use of doublethink. By offering the nation a healthy dose of this doublethink in his invitation to unite by dividing, by telling Democrats to become more entrenched in their views, to be less open to listening to the other side, Joe Biden has turned the Democrats into the party of Oceania, the all-controlling political party that rules every aspect of life in 1984. I hope Democrats reject Joe Biden's call to dystopia, that they do not view their opponents as going backwards as Joe Biden urges. I hope Democrats stop claiming that when Republicans exercise their right to vote, that they are, quote, destroying democracy. If Americans come together and reject the doublespeak, we can look forward to lively and interesting debates between Republicans and Democrats again one day, who can, at the end of the day, know that democracy actually is preserved. And this truly is a debate, as long as our freedom to choose politicians and candidates remains safely intact. Well, that wraps up today's show. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to follow me on social media. If you like the episode, you can find me on Facebook, where I post very, very often. I'm Danielle D'Souza Gill. I have a couple million followers on there, so join the club. You can find me on Instagram. I have a couple 100,000 on Instagram. Find me on X. I am also on Truth Social, all the places. I don't remember how many people are on there, but of course, Truth Social is one of my favorite platforms because of all the amazing Trump supporters. So make sure to get on there. I'm Danielle D'Souza Gill. Would love to hear from you guys and what you thought of today's podcast. That's where you can find my other political thoughts, content, videos, all of that. Well, I will see you all tomorrow, and MAGA.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify, or watch on Rumble, YouTube, and SalemNow.com.